Well, I guess my question would be then, if it's possible, I think this would be a good question just to kind of wrap it up from the very beginning, is what does it look like to you to be, if everybody's meant to be completely balanced, right? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No,
Oh,
I think
well,
that
like
there's
energy wise, masculine,
mm-mm.
feminine.
So you will, even in a sense, everything that's happened or come to pass has happened for a reason, you know? Even in a sense of being in imbalance, you will always be exactly what you need to be in every moment, as balanced or imbalanced as you need to be. You know, maybe your throat chakra is imbalanced and it causes you to yell out or say something that is you being angry or whatever in that sense. And maybe that understanding is your throat chakra being imbalanced. But in that moment, it was necessary for it to be imbalanced. And then it comes back into an other understanding of being, you know, being balanced. You know, maybe there's a part of you that is not as ready to move in your life the way that you want to move. And there's a reason for that. You know, there are reasons that certain things exist. These things, what Spirit has told me a lot of times is that the trauma that we pick up, the trauma that we experience, you get it over time. You know, when you're a child, you may not necessarily have all those things. And I say may not, because there's sometimes children are born so connected to their past life that they still have a lot of the things that from their past life that they're needing to release and heal. So, but sometimes or quite often, that's not the case. So you come into this world and you pick up all these other understandings, and they're kind of like often like a Spirit has told me that they're called safeguards or trauma safeguards in some sense, you know, and that this is not something that's necessarily, as we move forward in a future understanding that may be so heavy, but you cannot stop or make sure that nobody ever feels upset or angry or anxiety. It just is impossible. It's the nature of, you know, the human understanding to experience those things. No matter what you do, no matter how you try to give somebody a good household and everything else, they're always going to pick up from somewhere or something, some anxiety or discomfort. You can't grow up in a vacuum, you know? And so, with that being the case, these things are called trauma safeguards, and they have been so heavy in our environment because, you know, the world we live in is has not necessarily been ready for energy to be in such a 4D and 5D understanding in such a big way. And it's spoken to me about the fact that those things are changing, you know, where it's time to move into an environment where we do integrate all those things, where, as you said earlier, the divine feminine side of the energy does grow itself and does really break out and be heavily on the scene. But um in that sense, even still, these imbalances that we've had, they've been for a purpose. There's a lot that's happened as far as transforming our world, and it's just time to shake off some large understandings of it. But it's not to say that you're going to be this state of balance and that's it. No, it's like you're, as long as you're alive, your energy is going to be oscillating. You are a vibration of energy. You're going to oscillate back and forth, and oscillation may say that you are balanced, out of balance, back and forth. Your energy is moving and doing a lot. So it's not this understanding that you're just going to be in some state of complete balance. No, this is not about perfection.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, so I guess you shouldn't really. I guess I just want to identify so much with the feminine side that I
Mm-hmm.
think I want to ensure I'm allowing that aspect to that energy to flow freely, but
Mm-hmm.
I also want to be in complete balance. So I'm hearing you say that that's just not possible, or it's not even needed. Like the right energy will come, but if that's the case, then I think that I also look at as imbalance as not being good. It's bad.
Well, a lot of the world looks at things in good and bad, you know? And if you, in my conversations with Spirit, it doesn't think the way that we do. It thinks from, of course, the highest perspective that you could ever think of anything. It understands all of this because it is its creation in some sense. So it doesn't say really good or bad. It shows up as, speaking about the energy as what's necessary is happening. The necessary understandings are coming to pass. And to the human, from a human understanding of what's right and wrong, what a human understands it to be, it may say this is bad or this is good, but spirit often says that this is what was necessary. And the understanding of why it's necessary, it doesn't always or never will make sense to the human understanding. And it's because it's too large. And I say this as somebody who has gone through the process of trying to know and understand and being like, this is too much for me. And I get why, this is beyond me, that vast understanding. All of our knowledge, all of our understanding comes from our creator. And you have connection to all of it if you work to connect with it. But it is messy. It is too much. And it would never be meant to make sense to anybody but the one who created. And that's why it's just like, those, when I was speaking about spiritualists getting lost in the 4D and 5D realm, they may try to understand it in this logical, grounded way, but that is not for the 4D and 5D realm at this time. Maybe there's a point that it will come as we integrate it with the 3D, but it's not. When you're just existing in that spiritual understanding, it requires for you to let go of trying to make everything so logical. And a lot of times, there can be energies that try to do that, or try to bring certain 3D, even though they may not want to connect with the 3D, they might try to bring certain 3D ways of thinking to the 4D and 5D, and it just doesn't work. It's too, it's like a coil. I don't want to say knotted, because again, the source understands exactly what's going on, but we are just a small portion of that, and it's not meant for us to understand all of that. It's too much. It's too much for one mind.
So I hear what you're saying, but then in my head it goes back to, if my ego is leading,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, well, everything is happening as it should. So in that moment, I should allow my ego to lead. It just.
So the questions that you're asking, that you asked just now, it's not that simplified. What the question, you should maybe think about an understanding of what you want for your life. Right. What do you want for you? And if you want for you to just be in a place that you see as ego led, and often people, when you say ego leading, often people speak about that being as the ego leading in a place of imbalance, or a place of, when somebody says you have a lot of ego, they usually are saying it in a negative way. But your ego is not bad. It's been, a lot of things may have been poured into it that made it imbalanced, or made it in a way that is unsavory. But I think that it's about learning to balance that ego understanding, and the more that the ego exists without having so much of this stuff that's been added to it unnecessarily, you won't be able to get rid of all of it, because it's important for some of those things to exist in it, to give you that character and personality. But the ego is not a bad thing. And I think the problem is that a lot of people try to treat the ego like it is bad, and the ego is going to fight. It's a part of you. It doesn't want to be considered as unnecessary or bad, or a bad actor. Just like a person, a physical person, if you are just, well, the ego is a part of the person, but just if you view a person as a whole, and you just try to say you're bad, you want to take them down to that one understanding, instead of thinking about the fact that it's multifaceted and there are certain things that happen and everything else, then they're going to fight that. They don't want to just be seen as this bad character. And that's why a lot of people find it hard to take accountability, because it's like or they feel, well, it's not even worth trying. This is what I'm seen as. This is what I'm known as. No, I can't change anybody's mind, so that can be where some people's ego will be in the state of depression, and it will have them be like, well, there's no point. You get what I'm saying? Where other people's ego might be like, oh, no, I'm not going to let you treat me like, you get what I'm saying? So it's about acknowledging that the ego itself has picked up on a lot of things, and the ego is just trying to protect you. It's doing something that it's not really meant to be its job in a sense completely. And it's about balancing it out, letting it have its moment, and really thinking about where you want your life to head and lead, and what that means for where the current state of your ego at this time. What does that mean? How does your ego need to be trained in some sense? What does your ego understanding need to release in some sense? But it's not about getting rid of the ego or treating your ego like it's bad, because it's not. It's just been taught a lot of things. It's gone through this process. It's been collecting. Your whole life has just been collecting certain understandings of how to keep you safe. And that safe understanding may not make sense to other people. Maybe that safe understanding causes you to do something that is really, really mean, but this is your ego's way of keeping you safe. Maybe this ego understanding caused you to just, run away and not deal with certain things or not communicate, but this is your ego's way of keeping you safe. It's like it says, just don't communicate, just don't do this, just don't do that. And that's the safe understanding versus, dealing with it in a grounded way, because there are anxieties. This is your ego's way of keeping you safe, but it's not. So when you think about something that's trying to keep you safe, if you think about understanding trying to keep you safe, you would never think that if someone's trying to keep you safe, that they're bad. No, a lot of times you may think they're overbearing or this or that. Think of your ego as a part of you that wants to keep you safe, but may not have the tools and maturity to do it properly. And it's not its job, really. Its job is to assist you in getting to what you want in your environment in life. It's not this understanding of needing to give you ultimate safety, because that's not even a thing that's possible, really. Not in that sense. It really isn't the ego's job to do so.
Then how do you properly shed in a balanced way what you need to shed? You're doing it in a healthy way.
Well, if you're speaking about it in relation to your ego itself, it's again, like I would say, it's about talking to yourself about where you want to go with your life and what may need to be shed. If your ego understanding usually causes you to act in a certain way that is not conducive to helping you move toward what you want for yourself, then it may be that you need to work on balancing that out. But at the same time, your ego also needs to have permission to have its moment. So that could require that you step away for a time from, if let's say you're having a conversation with somebody, you don't like where the conversation is going, that could mean that it would cause you to step away and allow your ego to feel its anger, feel its doubt, feel its stress, feel its whatever the case may be. And after giving it its moment, then come back and have a conversation but not necessarily leaving the conversation undone or unsaid if there is a conversation that needs to be had or whatever the case may be. It's just really about making sure you give your ego or your emotional understanding space to have its moment. And then after doing that, come back and exist however you need to in this moment past whatever you're used to doing ego-wise. And even acknowledging the fact that maybe this is the way you usually move, but you don't want to move that anymore. You could even be speaking to somebody or communicating with somebody saying, if you're comfortable enough, I know that this is how I usually move, but I don't want to be like this at this time. I need space. I need time to just process and think, and then we can come back to this conversation.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have a question you would like to ask or would like the opportunity to receive a one-on-one session, please check out the links in this video's description to sign up for a free session or submit a question.